All right, then we go on with 4B.
I move to appoint Vickie Larsen to be the Ward 3 Alderwoman until April 2021 election.
I'll second.
Vickie, I apologize, but is it EN or ON?
Ian. We don't want to be Owen.
And is it VICKI?
Vickie.
IE. Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. Excuse me. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. I ask all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So we have 4 aye. Oops, did that wrong. 4 aye, 1 opposed, and the motion passes. Vickie, you are alderman for Ward 3 until the April 2021 election.
Okay.
You want to?
Do you want to be seated?
Do over there.
Well, you'll do the oath of office, but she'll be able to come right over here to do it. Excuse me.
And raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Vickie Larsen,
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of South Dakota, and I will faithfully discharge the duties of alderman in and for Ward 3 until the next election date for the city of Alcester, Union County, South Dakota, to which office you have been duly appointed.
I was hoping I was going to have to repeat all of that.
Have you fill in your name and sign?
Can you sit down? Go on to.
That's doing.
All right, we will then, welcome, by the way. We will move on to number 5, public input.
I had some public input, but I forgot. Something we need to be aware of. My son brought it to my attention. We have kids that are just on the east side of the hill by the pool, and they were in the middle of the road. So when he came up over the top of the hill, these kids were on a hoverboard and a bicycle and walking.
Totally agree.
And
Yeah.
he said something to them, but I don't know how we can fix that. It's not the pool's purview, but safety reasons.
They're in the middle of the road,
Mhm.
in the street.
Yeah, messing around.
Kids calm.
Yeah,
Now,
I mean, if someone sees it, they can just probably call the police and have them come over. The police can at least give like a warning and say, hey, you can't be.
that's true. It'll probably only have to happen once or twice from the police, and they'll probably all talk about it. It probably won't happen very much.
because my concern is that I am in a position where I can see traffic on 6th Street, and there's some vehicles that go through booking it, and by the time they get to the pool, they're wrapping it up, and to come up over the top of that hill and have 3 little kids there, I don't want to see the physics of that.
I think it is a 25-mile-an-hour zone.
And 15 during school hours, obviously, but that's, yeah, it is a 25-mile-an-hour zone.
But I think that's like a safety issue the police should be responsible for.
I think the police probably. Probably. It's just when they're around or not.
Right. Well, anything else? Hearing nothing else, we'll move on to number 6, legal updates.
I have. What was the thing that I was, this is, oh, quitclaim deed, yes. Okay. So the letters for the two properties that the city is going to seek condemnation through should be done this week and sent to the property owners via the code enforcement official. Need to get, I'm waiting on the official legal description of the properties. And I'm going through and detailing every time that those folks were told they had deficiency for their reference. Paul Noyd's gone to the VA in Minneapolis, I believe it is, and is not coming back. And he's contacted the city saying he wants to deed his property to us. So quitclaim deed was prepared and sent to him, care of his son, with a letter and payment of $1 as consideration from my office. I expect to have that executed document back. We are exempt from any transfer fees and any taxes on it going forward. I think that's all I have.
What's the second property? Did you see two properties?
Yeah, I think there's two.
There's one on Iowa Street,
one
and
right
there's one
direct-
on 210 Hostage.
Yeah, I knew 210 Alcester.
That one's the one that you're, Paul Noyd? Is it?
No, that's, I'm sorry, I should have clarified.
204
Oh, I'm
Austin is
sorry.
the quit claim deed.
Yep.
210 is the letter of
That,
condemnation.
that one did have a number of property maintenance issues, but he's not healthy enough to fix it. He just decided to give it to the city and to take care of it.
I see.
Are the taxes current on that?
I believe they are, but assuming they're not,
On Noyes?
yeah.
Wasn't he the one that was like way behind on the
He
property?
was, but they would pay.
Are you around 30?
And if they're not, there may be a way we can say the county will forgive these because we're trying to clean this place up, get it moved down, and make it useful so that we can actually get someone in there who will pay the taxes if they're brought up. Those are all the updates I have for this portion of the meeting.
Regarding the code enforcement officer, I know that there are a number of outstanding things that were excuse me, sent out in the form of letters, and some of those are still, they've not been dealt with. I can think of one specifically on Iowa Street. I guess I'm wondering, do we do another round of letters?
So what's happening with respect to these two properties now is there is going to be a letter that's a notice of condemnation saying you're hereby noticed you haven't fixed these problems, your property is condemned. They will be given 20 days under our version of the International Property Maintenance Code to appeal. They can come and appeal, and the council sits as the board they appeal to. If you grant an appeal, you certainly can, and they're given an extension of time, or kind of whatever, they're asking for at the appeal. If not, my practice and my firm's practice, and I would be very hesitant to abandon this practice, is anytime we are doing something with people's real property, there's an argument under the statute that the city can go in and can demolish something. I'm never gonna recommend you do that, and I'm gonna kick and scream if you try to make me do that. I prefer filing an action in circuit court where a circuit court judge says, yep, this property is condemned, and then gives the circuit court's blessing to go take the action we need to take to fix that.
I have a question. Is Homestead involved in either one of these properties?
No.
The second thing is I don't know if Alcester has done the practice a lot of other cities do, is the remedy, they give you a paper that tells you the remedy to appeal, the steps to appeal, that is sent to them. So they know the step-by-step process, should they elect to handle it themselves.
So, with respect to appeal, are you talking the appeal before this body or going to circuit court?
It would be the appeal before this body, or, well, either one, that a lot of places, if they say that this is your notice that is to be condemned, you have the ability to appeal. And many places will set out the steps that you need to do to, where you need to appeal and that. So I
Yeah.
don't know if the city does that, I don't know that.
So they do, the code enforcement official, when he cites, when he gives somebody a violation letter, essentially, he tells them that they've got the ability to appeal. When we send this condemnation notice, they're told that they have time to appeal, and then they will be told the next council meeting at which you could appeal is on date X or whatever.
Okay, is that in written form?
Yes, it will be
Okay.
written. And if you've got to appeal within 20 days, if there's no council meeting until 25 days later, they're obviously given the benefit of the doubt. We have not had a condemnation action by the city since I've been here. But, any appeals process that is part of our ordinance, which is the 2012 property maintenance code, would be put in that letter. My practice has usually been, if you say you want to come talk to us about it, that's good enough. I mean, I'm hesitant to be overly formalistic with respect to requirements for lay people that are property owners, if that makes sense. You say I want to appeal, you basically. Now with respect to court, I'm sorry, I'm digressing on this. I have to be careful because there are legal requirements. If I'm going to sue you, I've got to give you notice of the hearing and have that served upon you and comply with those things. And I'm happy to do that, and I'm happy to tell the person, look, you show up in court at this time, here's what's going to happen. What I want to avoid doing is providing somebody enough legal advice to where I've given them information adverse to the city's interests. And that, if it's you and me going to court over something that the judge is going to tell you at some point, if you're pro se, you might want to think about hiring a lawyer. Would you like to have some time to hire a lawyer? And they're going to get that every time. So it's with one of these individuals, I'm not going to share who here, but I have explained, to the extent I feel comfortable doing so, the protections that individual has, going forward if we end up in a court proceeding. So they've been told to the extent I can tell them, they can be told again in writing, they've been told to the extent I feel comfortable telling them, this is the process, and here's how you fight it if you're, Does that answer your question?
Yeah, my concern is that, like I said, I've seen other places, and they give, it's a bare minimum. It's that this is the step you need to take. And it's not really giving legal advice, but it's describing what they need to do to appeal.
Sure. Yep.
It's not a legal advice, but it's just describing what steps they have to take if they want to appeal.
And that's in both the letters Mr. Fillings has put together, but if we get to the point where I'm getting these things done on behalf of the city,
I guess the thing I'm interested in is maybe somebody that did not comply with a letter that's already been sent out. Or possibly something new that is not even, nobody's ever gotten even a letter yet. But they're obviously against the ordinance, or ordinances. Are other letters being maybe put together, or is he in the process, or?
There are some letters that do need to go out, both nuisance letters as far as unmown grass and the party that you are talking about on Iowa Street.
Trees right up next to
Sidewalk.
that sidewalk. I mean, there are a number of different things. I've seen a few things lately, and I don't know whether they're old news or new news. I don't know.
Some are, they're both, some are
Okay.
both. Because I do have people this year that are not caring for their property, but in the past they have.
Yeah, I've noticed that a little bit.
I'm not sure. But
So if we got somebody with tall grass and they've been told this. Do we have the right to just go in there and mow it and
Yes,
charge them $100?
that is why every spring for our ordinance, I have to put something in the paper. And this is their legal notice, that you are not allowed to let your weeds get taller than the 8 inches. And if it does, then the city does have the right to go in there and read the problem. So I do publish that every spring, and typically a letter does go to them as well. This year has been a little bit different circumstances dealing with the COVID and not having the frequency of Mr. Billings' coming over,
Sure.
so.
Well, and I can appreciate that for sure, but I think there are some things that maybe it would be a good idea to at least put a bug in his ear to say, you know, we've noticed a few different things, could you take a swing through town and look at a few things with us?
And the mowing the lawns, I have no problem just doing that after you send them a letter. A lot of cities do that, it's been.
So every time you gotta send them a letter.
You know, I think you'd be okay, we've sent you 1, 2, 3, 4 letters, and we're coming to mow, and if we mow and another 2 weeks go by and we've got an alfalfa field, we're gonna continue to mow until we don't even mow it. I think that's fine.
Okay.
Well, my son used to live in Sioux Falls, and he was always really worried about keeping his lawn up, because if not, the city comes, you don't even get a notice, I don't think. The city comes and does it, and you get a huge bill for it. I mean, it's a huge bill.
Ken started doing that, tree's gotta be 15 feet high. Mine are 15.6.
Okay, well, is that the end of the legal updates then?
It is, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, move on to number 7, planning and zoning ordinance amendments.
Is A supposed to be a second reading?
No, and I was going to tell you that. 8, ordinance number 2020-8 did not get on the July 6th agenda, so we couldn't act upon it. So I will modify that date. I just didn't revamp the copies for you guys. So first reading is tonight, which will be the 20th, and then second reading will be August. And I will fix that on a copy that Dan
And
signed.
this has to do with the new planned development district right out here.
For this parcels, yes.
This is the one that you have looked into.
Yeah, if I remember right, at one point we talked about some minor changes that were made. So this should be the most up to date.
Yeah, it seems familiar, but I don't remember what we changed. I think it was the ability of the city to meet in a,
That's-
to hold it.
That's 2020-09.
That's
Oh,
fine.
okay.
That's letter B.
This is just the one that like allows whoever buys the school to kind of develop it,
Yeah,
how they need to once.
so long as it jives with the city plan and the council sitting as the planning commission, planning and zoning commission approves it, you've got to have a public hearing on that development. We got to have 2 public hearings, actually, the public hearing on the initial development plan and the public hearing on the final before it's approved.
All right, then, we're having a first reading on that, not a second reading. Any more discussion regarding that?
Real quick, Mr. Mayor, sorry to keep talking so much tonight. Do we need to have a planning and zoning hearing on this, or we already had? We already had. it. Okay.
So we do need a motion to approve the first reading.
I'll make a motion to approve the first reading, the ordinance number 2020-08, an ordinance amending the Alcester zoning regulations, Chapter 5, Planning and Development District of the City of Alcester.
I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Sorry, I'm so used to sitting quietly.
All yes. All right, then we move on to 2020-09. This is the one that was just alluded to a moment ago, and specifically bullet point B. B. No, I'm talking about here.
Oh, public service facility.
Yep. Any discussion? We've probably beat this dead horse. Could I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the second reading of ordinance 2020-09, an ordinance of the City of Alcester, South Dakota, amending the 2018 revised Alcester zoning regulations by amending Chapter 4.02, R, residential district, permitted uses.
I'll second.
Melissa seconded. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Pardon me. If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All in favor. The personnel policy manual, any discussion thereof.
Mr. Nelson, have you had a chance to review that yet? I know you've been out of town.
I re-reviewed some of it. I received Marcus Ireland's comments, but I have not reviewed those yet. I started with yours. But I haven't been all the way through all of them
Will we be ready by August, the first meeting of August?
yet, which would be August.
Second, right? Because that's one thing we're going to have to discuss. Or is it the third? It's going to have to be Tuesday. Oh, no, I'm sorry, it's September, excuse me.
No, it'll be
I'm sorry.
Alcester.
Yeah, well,
Holiday in August?
I'm just wishing, okay.
Trying to make summer go away?
Well, Labor Day.
It's catching.
Well, Labor Day.
Third.
Third.
So I do have some comments on that, and how would you like me to handle that? Do you want the comments ahead of time?
Let's do it now.
I said I'd like to hear him now.
Okay. So on 1.04, which is page 7,
I don't have it in front of me.
That's all right, go ahead and just tell us what the issue is.
some of the language has changed from when it was in committee. So it's the app, what's the 1.04, at-will employment. So previously, we had in accordance with South Dakota Codified Law 60-4-4 and other state statutes governing the at-will employment, and that was not in there, so I didn't know if there was a reason why that was taken out.
Say it again.
In the part where it's talking about the at-will, the language of in accordance with South Dakota Codified Law 60-4-4 and any other state statutes governing at-will employment, that was omitted. It was originally in there, and then in this copy it was omitted. So I did not know why. Okay.
I think that should be in there.
I would think it should be in there.
That's the pertinent law.
I agree.
And then in some of the pages, I'm not sure why it happened, but, and I'm sure it's not in the Word document, but in the PDF version that was sent out, this happens a lot, where the text is unreadable. I think it's supposed to say this, but it doesn't.
Is this the Word document?
This is the PDF, this is what you sent me, you didn't send me the Word document. So there's a few places where that happens. And again, I'm not sure why.
I'm gonna guess, not that, again, I'm not a tech guru, but I'm gonna guess it's because there's comments in it, and And PDFs it's a conversion system, so when you take a Word doc and turn it into a PDF, it does have to format it, and actually changes the font slightly. I just learned all this because I can hide Adobe PDFs. But PDFs aren't meant to have comments in the same way that Word documents have comments. And so I'm guessing that that's what caused that formatting snafu, is that it tried shifting the comment to keep it in the document, but it doesn't. So that'll be fixed once comments are removed from the document, I assume.
I updated our address because by the time this goes into effect, we won't be at 106 West Second. So 500 Dakota Street. There are some things, so accident reporting, all work-related accidents and injuries should be reported. The new verbiage is that it should be reported to the department head, and then finance officer and mayor is scratched out. I'm going to suggest that it's reported to me immediately, or the finance officer immediately, because we have 24 hours to get an accident report filed. And
Is this a car accident, or you're talking just
Any
any
Work-
accident?
It
work
doesn't
related.
To work comp.
Falling out of a tree or running into a
Is
tree.
it is it a work comp thing?
correct,
Okay.
yes. So
What section is that?
2.15,
And
accident reporting. So on job announcements, part of the updating on 4.1, or 4.3, you changed it that a job will be advertised for a minimum of 2 weeks. Is that, I don't know if you want that, or is 1 week sufficient?
I think, feels like this is a conversation we've already had.
Well, these were changes that were made from the last time to this time, so I don't know when that conversation.
Well, that was 2 years ago, so. I feel like we've had the conversation about how to advertise for job openings. If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong.
I don't know whether you're right or wrong because it was over a year ago. But tell me this, what was the verbiage before? Or was there verbiage regarding this?
There was not a time.
There was not a time, but it gave us specific avenues that we had to advertise on that we never did. So I took that out, because if we're not following
We're
the
not
rules,
doing
then
it,
take
why-
it out.
yeah.
I would question the job importance. If it's something that can wait, then your time could be longer. But if it's something imperative, like a police officer or whatever, then you'd want to close that time gap up. If I'm understanding what you're talking about.
Oh, we're just talking about the amount of time that you would advertise, correct?
Correct.
I guess I thought 2 weeks was what we were discussing.
I think 2 weeks is good.
Because I think we have
it's
discussed
less
this.
about,
I think so,
it's
too.
less about, to me, how quickly we fill it, as much as giving people the opportunity to know that we're filling the
Right,
position.
and that's the
Right.
part
And
that we
so-
had discussed, was
And so I
that was
think
there enough time?
2 weeks provides that time, whereas 1 week, you would miss half,
It was not an arbitrary number. When I put it in there, it was my understanding that we have had this discussion before. It's been a while, but I know you haven't, and I know you weren't on the council when I put it.
2 weeks, it sounds.
The rest of
I
us, at
mean-
some point, we had this discussion about how long is adequate.
I think 2 weeks is a good idea.
Twice in 2 weeks.
Yeah, like once per week, right?
Sounds good.
Another section that was completely rewritten from any, this was the first time that I had seen it, was 4.12, which is residency requirement.
And what was changed?
It used to say, residency within the city or a distance in which the employee can reach the city in 15 minutes shall be a condition of employment. An applicant, however, shall not be discriminated against because of non-residency in the city and shall be given a reasonable amount of time not to 6 months if hired to establish residency within the city. That's how it was originally stated. And now it is residency within the city is not required for employment. Full-time police officers must reside 15 miles of the city to ensure prompt response. Is that what you want?
I don't see why you'd have to be a resident of the city to work for this.
That's, yeah, and I feel like we've had this conversation.
And as long as we keep like like, obviously we want our workers to show up to work regularly. And so like if we allow them to live exponentially far away and then the winter hits, because everyone loves South Dakota's winter and then you can't come to work, like, obviously we don't want that. So I think as long as we have some type of limitation on distance, I don't think residency itself is necessarily like a requisite to be like, oh, you have to live within these walls.
This for law enforcement specifically, or
Everyone.
I think the whole document is supposed to kind of apply generally to everyone.
Right, this is the
That's
general
what-
employee one. I feel like we've had this conversation before, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but we didn't want it, we only wanted it restricted for the police department because they're the only ones that really absolutely have to respond immediately. And do we really want to restrict having interested employees and potentially good employees just because they don't live in town?
Yeah, like if we got some really great person that's right outside of here, so.
Right. Are we really going to tell them you can't work here because you don't live in Alcester?
Down in Southeast.
Okay, one thing we would have to deal with if they live in Hayward.
The flooding.
You've got flooding, but you've got difference in states.
So
Which
if somebody
could-
lives in a different state, they can't work in South Dakota?
Well,
Okay.
conceivably, it could raise more problems.
Such
just-
It would for them, for tax
Yeah, I'd
purposes.
say for
but-
I
tax-
don't
tax
see how that would affect us.
And tax reporting.
Pat, your question was there's two versions of that provision, which one do we want? Is that what your question?
Well, the latest version that I had was 2019. I was unaware of the changes that I'm pointing out are the changes that I was not aware of. So I'm just asking, is that what you want?
Okay.
Because it is not the most that copy that I have.
I have two copies. I have two copies of the manual now. One is your draft with your comments, and one is the manual that was given to me by Melissa. And the one that's given to me by Melissa is the one I think you were referring to. But the one you gave me also has the older document that you were now referring to, so the one that did include the residency requirement. So I
So
think
what's the one
I
that's
think it's-
right now?
I think it's safe
What
to
would it
assume
be
the
right
longer
now for an
With
employee?
the residency requirement.
Yes.
is right now. is
So-
current.
Or residency or 15 minutes away.
Miles,
But giving 6
it
months.
says 15
So then our
miles.
librarian
That's
has to be
my
fired,
point. If that's,
which is why I thought we were changing it, but
Yeah, I think it should be safe to assume that anything that's in Melissa's version is like the way we were thinking things were going. And like we can hash out that language, but we're not, I don't think we should be tiptoeing back and forth between.
Let me make a suggestion right now to make this happen a little bit more streamlined. We're going to push back to the second meeting in August to finalize this. The first meeting in August, we come with a definitive copy for every single person here of what we're talking about. That copy will be the one that is then marked up and then done.
I thought that was the one that was already sent out.
Evidently it wasn't, because now we've got 2 or 3 different versions, and I think
Well,
we're
the
done
only
with the
version,
conversation.
the only
right
version
now.
that was sent out to the city employees is Melissa's. Because Melissa's the one who sent it. I think the
Well, that
only
doesn't,
reason-
if there are other copies though, that doesn't mean other people haven't been.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously,
Transmitted
if
as well.
anyone's had the old version that's from, I don't know when the last time was updated, but whatever physically was created, like, just because they have that doesn't mean that we're gonna be like, oh, you've got too many copies, we're not gonna say. I think we can go forward right now saying the copy that Melissa's sent out to all employees is the copy that we're debating.
So any changes that I made
And
were
that is
not-
before what you're talking about, right?
I used her document.
Okay.
The one that Melissa sent me. And I compared it to the most recent edition that I had, because I did not know of any discussion, because the changes that I got were the last changes that I was a part of,
2 years ago.
January of 19. So, there are some things that were changed from
Yes, there were.
January of
That-
19
that
to
is
here
true.
that I was not aware of, that may not be the best scenario. So the things I'm bringing up are things that I'm questioning, if that is truly indeed what you want.
I think what we should do is we should operate under the assumption that right now, Melissa's version is the version that we're thinking of. And anything, like any concerns that anyone, any city employee or like anyone has about it, that's what we're gonna hash out. So like if you prefer something in the original copy, we're gonna look to this most current copy, Melissa's version, and we're going to debate between that copy, changing it to what originally said. We should only really be looking at least as the council, and we should only be looking at Melissa's copy, starting now, because we've all had it. And so, and it's what was sent to the city employees. And then if they have any concerns, much like Pat, your concerns right now, if there are things that you think, no, I don't think that's the best, that's what right now is really all about. It's like we're hashing that right out right now, saying she thinks that we should have a residency requirement or shouldn't have a residency requirement. And we are right now gonna say yes or no. That's our final decision on that going forward.
Any of the changes that I made, they're not superfluous. I'm not pulling them out of thin air.
I realize that.
They're based off of things that the council has discussed, either openly or in executive session at some point.
Well, that's why I phrased it the way that I did, because I was not a part of that conversation, so I was
Right.
not aware of it.
The only thing that you've said so far that I was not aware that happened was the very first one about the 1.04. If that got deleted, it was probably next.
Okay. 4.14, employees with less than 6 months of service, same situation, whole bunch of text running over the top of each other. I cannot read it, so I don't know what that says.
Would you like me to read it to you?
No,
I'll just
because
send her-
hopefully
Oh,
I'll get a
because
word copy.
I have mine open now. on my phone, so I can- Anything that you'd like me to read.
Standard work week, 5.2. So right now, in Melissa's version, it states that our standard work week is going to start at 12 a.m. on a Saturday and go through to 11:59 on a Friday. And I understand the theory of why that's being changed, but I'm going to throw out the suggestion, instead of breaking up a work week in the mid-shift of a police officer's shift, I would recommend that we change that to be the work week starts 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning, and it ends on 5:59 on a Saturday morning. Oftentimes, if police officers are out on a shift on weekend, they are out until 2. If they have an incident, they might be out until 3 or 4. And so that, if we say 6 o'clock, because Wanda went back the past 2.5 months, 6 times each officer went past midnight.
And Jeff and I were aware of that when we first talked about it, and that was actually one of the perks in doing it that way, was that they know that their long hours are on the weekend. That was the whole point in starting it at that time.
It's by shifting it to the midnight that we can actually keep them closer to 40/40 rather than making a shift and then having regular overtime.
Right.
That's what I understood.
Yes, and we were well aware that there were gonna be times when that switchover is going to happen in the middle of a shift.
Well, that would just be my suggestion, is that it starts at 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning and not at midnight.
Does it make it difficult to figure out pay if it's at midnight?
A little bit.
Do they have to check out, and check in, check back in?
No, they would just stay on shift.
So what would be the difficult part? I just want to know so that way, like, if,
Because they're in mid-shift, and they don't punch out or punch in. I mean, they punch in at the start of their shift, and they might not get done with their shift until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
I understand that. My question is more about, I guess maybe the software that you might use for whoever does the actual payroll, sorry, thank you. So whatever software you do, is there some difficulty in its ability to splice at midnight versus splicing the shift at 6?
I don't know that answer.
Okay,
So I don't know, I'd have to play around with my program.
okay.
We
Because that
don't
was
get-
like,
We
I
don't
was,
get the ability to have a time cutoff.
so how
Yeah,
would
see, I just have.
So you do it
dates.
manually, you go in and manually
type what their shift was?
add it up.
So 6 AM to midnight, you're gonna have to do it either way possibly.
I go in there and I put
But
my
they
dates in there.
Wouldn't work
The
until
payroll
6 in the
starts
morning
at
unless it was
whatever
like a major
date, so
catastrophe. They would
I,
be done
I don't know,
2 or 3.
I would have to play with it to tell you the truth.
Okay.
But I'm not saying it can't be done, because I don't know. But
I
I,
get that, I get that.
Is that still part of the program time clock free?
what?
Is that still part of the program time clock free?
Yes.
And you're merging that with QuickBooks?
We use a different program for calculating paychecks. We don't do payroll through QuickBooks.
Have you ever used payroll?
I have, but I like the software we currently have.
And that software we currently have, we don't know. That's what
What?
we'd have to toy with. The software we currently have to do payroll, that's what we'd have to toy with. Okay.
It
Because I'm
was-
just trying to figure out what the difficulty would be, because if it's really just some extra buttons to click again, I say things as if all things are simple. I know they're not, and so I apologize. But if it's a minor kind of thing that we have to do for it to figure out when the shifts end, and if they just immediately start again at like 12:01, I think in the long run, it's still better to keep it at midnight then because of our shifting of the hours.
So
But if
why
it is a big,
Why is it you don't like our suggestion? Because we're the ones that have to do the work. So can we just start the day at 6 o'clock in the morning? We won't have any officers that work that late unless there's unforeseen drama.
so the reason that we shifted it is because of their like pay week. We're trying to
We
shift
totally
the
get
hours.
that, but we
But like, if
don't
we
have
did-
an
if we shift-
officer on duty.
But if we shift the
At that
hours
time of night.
forward, then it doesn't fix that problem.
Can you refresh me, what is it right now?
We start Monday morning at midnight.
So that was part of the reason why, is just that that's what it was at already, was the midnight. So when Jeff and I were talking about it, we just moved the midnight time back a couple days.
Yeah.
Maybe there
Realizing
would,
that-
maybe there wouldn't be an issue.
Because I
with
thought
call
since it was
6
already
o'clock.
at midnight to cut off, I thought that was the easiest way to do it.
Mhm.
I did not realize it was going to cause that issue. I thought moving the midnight back a couple days is how you preferred it, since it was already at midnight as the cutoff.
Well, we totally get your methodology, totally do.
If
And
it's going, but if it's easier to just do it at 6 AM, I have no,
And as long
Problem
as
with
it includes that little window of their shift. Or as long as we're fine with them potentially having overtime regularly.
well, they
It's
should
not
Well,
real
that's-
regularly.
point of doing this is to, like, to
Well, that's what makes the program administrator,
Well, that's,
that gives them the ability to fix things, to take care of things like that, the oddball things like that.
I'm aware, I'm saying, so the reason we were shifting it was to make it so it was about a 40-40, right? That's the reason we shifted it. And I'm saying that it's totally fine to start it at 6 if it doesn't lose that function of putting it at a 44. That's all I'm saying.
So
But like if we
I don't think those
changed,
6 hours are gonna make that much
we
difference.
made the change
I don't know, I
because
just
of the
think,
police department,
yeah,
basically.
we're trying to include police department.
Now, this is just a thought in my mind, because in the summer, for example, I have to file for unemployment, because I only work Monday a week. Our work week ends Saturday night. So if any person or anybody ever had to go to unemployment, your work week is Sunday to Saturday night at midnight. I don't know what that, so that is a work week of your states. Just a thought.
So here's what happened. We were going to, since usually they do the shift change, the weekend shift change is usually like Friday at 2-ish, is that correct? That's usually when the night officer
PM.
starts, is 2 p.m., yes, 2 p.m.-ish.
it
2
could
to
be 2,
4.
it could be 4. something like
Between 2 and 4.
Okay.
So but that's not everybody in the city. The other city employees typically do the 8:30 to 5. So we were going to do it starting at 2 or 3 on Friday, and then we realized, well, we can't do that because that's gonna affect the other, it's gonna make it impossible for the other city employees who aren't working those odd hours. So then we talked about starting it like at 5, when all the other city employees clock out, typically at 5. That's gonna be, that would be the cutoff. But we're like, well, we don't wanna make it so close to 5 that those city employees can't, like, if you have to stay till 5:30 or 6, we didn't wanna cut them off oddly. So then Jeff and I were just like, well, how about midnight? Since that's already the cutoff on Sunday or Monday or whenever it is, clearly that's a good, that, you know, if it's already a midnight cutoff, it must be a pretty simple switch, which I now know it is not.
Correct. Well, typically on Sunday night, we don't have any officers on duty because
Right.
they just either do on-call or they work at morning or day shift. We usually don't have anyone on a Sunday night.
But that is what happened. There was no bad intention there.
Yeah.
When Jeff and I were talking about, it, we were trying to figure out where to cut it off. And that was just we thought that would be the easiest solution. If it is not the easiest solution, that is fine. We can totally change it. I'm okay with it if everybody else here is okay with that.
Yeah, I just want to speak to the police first, see how that would affect that 40-40 thing, because that was our whole kind of reason of shifting. And then as long as it doesn't greatly, like if you're right, and it doesn't greatly,
It should only
Change
be
that.
2 or 3 hours.
Yeah,
It's
3
only
hours
better-
is the max.
yeah, if as long as it doesn't,
Unless they get called in on 911, but there's really no
Yeah.
way to.
to know that.
That could
In
happen
that
anytime.
case, then it
so-
could happen
yeah, it
anytime.
could
But like, as
happen.
long as it generally doesn't shift that too bad, then I'm not saying it would be a problem to switch to the 6.
I don't
I'm just
think
saying we should.
I don't think it'll be a problem.
You don't?
No. I just thought that was the easiest cutoff, so that's where we put it. I had no idea that it would.
But Dan, here's what discussing coils. My work is Sunday to Saturday.
Well, first of all, I can't even answer that because I don't get paid an hourly wage, but I think those individuals that do get paid an hourly wage, I think it is Sunday to Saturday as well. I think that Saturday at midnight is the next week. If you look at a calendar, the calendar goes Sunday through Saturday,
Correct.
and that's every single week of the year. So,
And again,
But that doesn't work very well for the.
no, I'm not saying that, but that's pretty logical.
No, and I get the logic of it. I think 6 o'clock is totally fine as long as it also accommodates those other benefits that we were hoping to get. That's all I was saying.
I don't think there should be an issue, so.
So if there's-
Does it bother the people at the library or the golf course that I'm chairman
No. we
of?
don't.
Midnight or 6 a.m., either way.
So on comp time, 5.8, I thought we had said 40 hours, and in here it's 24.
and again, that is a conversation that I believe was had in executive session at some point for some other thing.
Okay?
3 days worth.
It's 3 days worth, and in the past, I can't remember, I know we talked about this, I don't remember the exact time frame that we looked at, I think it was at least a year. In the past year, no city employee has come even close to that 24-hour mark. So why give an extra leeway if we don't need it? I believe is what we had discussed.
Why create a problem if you don't?
Why create a problem if it hasn't been a problem in the past year? Obviously, we don't need it.
On 6.6, under travel for general policy, I'm not sure you meant to use that word exigent, which is like a police word for not in search.
Exigent circumstances.
Can you read the sentence to me?
Employees must seek approval of the city council before incurring expenses, this is regarding travel, unless exigent circumstances prevent pre-approval. I feel like that's the wrong use of that word.
I think it's correct.
I think it's right.
Yeah, it's correct.
It's often used in law enforcement, but what exigent circumstances means is that you're in a situation that prevents you from following normal procedures through no fault of your own. You're 1,000 miles from here and it's 1 in the morning and there's no cell service and you gotta use the city credit card to put gas in the tank.
exigent circumstance, we give you free pass.
Okay.
But you're right, the cops use it a lot.
Leaves of absence,
Number?
section 7.2. Employee shall request the use of vacation by filling out a leave request form. I don't feel that is a good suggestion.
Why?
We are a very small, we're very small, I mean, there's 7 of us, and we get our own backup if we need one. Like, if Lonnie's gonna be gone, he confirms with Dale. If Dale's gonna be gone, he confirms with Lonnie. Wanda and I both confer with each other. I don't feel the employee should have to fill out a request for time off form.
And there's nothing that prevents that from staying the same way. All that this would do is require that it be documented. That's it. You can still do all those same things.
I think it's important that it's documented. There's, you know,
Even if it's like Lonnie just writes down and him and Dale have figured this out, and then they just hand it to you,
But I'm gonna tell you, they won't do that. I mean, it's wonderful that you have it on paper and you have the word shall in there. So that means we have to do it, but I'm telling you, I can't envision the employees doing it.
Well, then
Well, then I guess
would
we're
it-
gonna have to
Call
have
for-
committee meetings with the employees and tell them they have to do it.
Yeah, and eventually I think after,
And if you can't enforce it, that's fine, it's not.
yeah, that's
then
not
That's
a,
when we step in and we go in and tell them.
but I also think that that's why there's a section on reprimand, because eventually, like, we have to be able to say, you need to follow our policies.
Nothing is stopping them from taking time off.
No, exactly. I'm
All
just
that they
saying-
need to do is document it, that's it.
Yeah, and if they fail to document it, then that's when we step in and
At
we
my
follow our own
work,
policy.
we have to do the form. But let's say an hour from now, I decide to take vacation. The form that we use, they could just call you and say, I'm leaving, I'm taking an hour vacation. And my office writes in the date it happened on that day. If I want to take a 2-week vacation, let's say, I mean, they're the same thing, they don't tell me I can't take vacation. Then I know in advance, and it's just to help them fill that spot while you're gone.
But that's not how this is worded. It's worded that the employee will fill out this form with me, and then the employee's department head will either approve or deny the request.
So to me, it should be more evident. I mean, I bring you the form.
You're going to get kickback is what I'm going to tell you.
Well, we're getting kickback right now, so
Yeah.
let's
Well, I
bring it
thought
on.
that's what you wanted. You
I
asked
do.
for our comments.
I do,
Yeah.
so I'm
I'm
not upset about it.
I'm
You're
just-
saying that we're gonna get kickback, that's all we get. Name one meeting where we haven't gotten it.
And I think
It's
it's
fine.
I think it's good that you're bringing up the fact that we're gonna get kickback, because that's important. But I think documenting that is necessary. I think that by itself is necessary. We can totally reword whether or not it needs to actually end up getting approved and who gets to do the approving, that's totally up for debate. I do think that at least having it documented that, oh, so like if I randomly wanted, like, what are the city officials doing with their time while on the clock? And then I'm like, well, Lonnie's supposed to work on this day, and then I'm like, oh no, he has vacation, he's supposed to with the day. I think that it needs to just be documented, so that way people can
it's for their
informally
protection.
audit.
It's
Like, if
for
I
their
wanted to get-
protection as well as the city's protection. Because that way you know, if there's no, if they write it down, there's no possibility of misinterpretation.
And we just know, then we just know for clarity's sake that like, this is what happened.
So, Pat, you're saying that there are times when you don't know that Lonnie or Dale are taking time off because they've just got it arranged with their partner?
Correct.
Okay.
And that.
Or
shouldn't be
they'll put it on their
communicated.
time card, you know, like if they went home sick, or they had a headache, or, you know, they had an errand, or whatever.
Well, and obviously
the case is.
sickness can be a different situation because it can pop up like that, but like when
I-
planning time that you're going to actually train the person, if they're doing it informally already, all we're asking is that at some point that needs to be documented. And I'm totally willing to.
Could be after the fact.
Yeah, I'm totally willing to discuss it,
That might be-
the request kind of being less of a request and more of a, we're just wanting.
You do find out about this eventually.
Yes,
So all you'd have to do is fill in, somebody would just have to fill in.
And there's the key.
So it's the verbiage that's the problem.
Well, it's the fact that, yes, I mean, the procedure you're saying, that the employee has to fill out a time off request form, file it with me, and then we have to meet with the department head to make sure that it can be approved.
And did we
And-
define department heads yet?
Well, I'm assuming it's the
We don't
chairman
have-
of the committees.
So I think this problem could be solved by instead just like saying something like, in order to have vacation time, or I've already forgotten the language right now, but like, it must be documented with the finance officer. And if we said something quite simple like that, and maybe gave it like a timeline, it has to be done within 2 weeks of the date that they took it, that they took the vacation time. So that way it's not like 6 months from now, they're saying, oh yeah, hey, by the way, I took vacation time.
That
As
way,
long as
if
we
you
do
put
something
something
like
on their timesheet by the end of the 2 weeks, it would.
Yeah.
What's the, does it say in there what the definition of leave of absence is? Is this just pertaining to a leave of absence?
This is pertaining to vacation leave.
Vacation. So this isn't about sick time or
No,
like
it's just
personal
the
time,
vacation.
it's just vacation.
Vacation. And it's also not uncommon for, when somebody might come into our office and say, it's 10 o'clock in the morning, and they're gonna say, I'm gonna leave at 2 because I've got blah, blah, blah.
So then, right then, at that point, write it down, it's done, it's over. It wouldn't even need to be,
And what most places do, especially places that have more than one building that they're working under, we would just print off a bunch of these sheets and keep them at each, the police department have them.
Honestly, we could make a
There would be a
booklet
stack
and
of-
give it to the
Yes.
employees themselves and say, if you need to arrange vacation time,
Or
fill
have
out
the forms on-
form and then
or
just
have the
drop it
forms on the
off
website.
literally anywhere.
Or the website.
Yeah. I think your concern is valid about how we require it to be performed. But I think
It's
we
gotta be
also,
documented.
we also just need that. We need that documentation. It's just like, you keep a record of everything to save your own hide when push comes to shove, so.
From an employee's perspective, I realize in a bigger company and a bigger employment setting, you do need to have it all documented, totally on your page on that. When you have 7 people, it is kind of interpreted as you don't trust us to cover ourselves.
I get that.
It's a very negative connotation.
I get that feeling, I can understand it. I have to push back on that though, and I have to say, it almost feels like we're not trusted in the fact that we are just covering our butts. Like, that's just something all employers do. I had to do it when I worked for a small chain grocery store. I had to do it when I worked for giant McDonald's, I almost said Walmart. I also had to do it for Walmart too, so.
But
yeah,
those
I
are
mean,
big.
like- Yeah, so I'm saying
You
small
have
chains and big chains,
You have
like,
7 employees that run the city, 7, that's it. And you're not trusting us, I mean, to do our jobs, to be a backup to each other when we.
No, I mean, you're not trusting us to do our jobs to document something that should have
be
been done
and I don't think.
this whole
I think-
time and has not
We
been
have
done.
no problem with you guys backing each other up. We think you do that. We obviously know you do that.
And you're still going to be able
And
to
we,
do
and we
that.
hope that you continue to do that. We're just saying that at some point, it has to be written down. And it has to be compiled in a way that we would be able to then access that information and say, I can look at, let's say January, and I can just say, during January, this is all of the swap time. And it really doesn't matter to me. I'm gonna be like, I don't care. Like,
if that's all you're
Thank
looking
God,
for,
yeah.
that's on the time cards. If that's all you're looking for,
no, I don't think it's quite as simple as that because.
We already have these forms.
Yeah,
These forms already exist.
Yes, they do.
They just have never been used.
Well,
Yeah,
and
we tried it-
scheduling.
We tried it one other time, and what happened is, I ended up doing all the work.
And that's when you call one of us and tell us that that is our job to lay that
Yeah.
number down. That is not your job.
But
I don't
if
know
you-
when this was.
But if you want to know about it, then somebody needs to get it done.
well, and also like I
Between the
agree,
next
yes,
council meeting, yeah.
I agree, yes, like eventually, obviously in the short term, you would then have to be getting it done in that moment, but like, the idea would then be that you would then come to us and say, hey, my time is precious, I'm running out of freaking time to do all the actual stuff I have to do. You need to talk to this department and have them fill out their forms. And then I would say, you are correct. And I would turn to the department and I'd say, fill out your forms, all right?
Do we
How would I
have
manage
them
any
somewhere filed?
So,
Yeah, they're in that.
I mean, all of the stuff that I have, you know, stuff. But it's been a couple years ago?
2014.
Okay, never mind, it's been long.
so.
Scheduling wise, we run machines. Our employees set them at a machine, each employee did a machine or a part. The thing is, if they don't show up, now I've got that machine down. And if you operate, well, I'm in this position and my job description is this, well, I had to be able to move people around. They're still getting the same pay, it's just that they're getting moved around to a different machine to operate. And that's literally what we're doing here. If we have to take somebody from water and put them on street, or vice versa, the two gentlemen can exchange, but we have to be able to move them around, and you know, it's you're getting paid the same amount, whichever job you do. So I guess getting nitpicky about that is ludicrous.
Well, and I do think it is a valid concern that you guys feel like we aren't trusting you. I think, I'm sorry if that's how you guys feel, but I do think that just because it's 7 employees doesn't mean we should neglect our kind of duties of just administering over the city officials. Like it's just something every company does. So like,
And this isn't new either, like, this was a rule that was already in place. This shouldn't come as a shock. It's not like I pulled it out of thin air.
And-
We had a similar rule in the 2000 version
and
that
I
we used to be used.
And I'm
Okay, so
perfectly
can I say
amenable.
something then?
Of course.
And probably it was never used, so
Yes,
that's
it
why we
was.
quit it.
Yes,
I
it
mean,
was.
so somebody came and looked at those forms?
They were presented to the council every month.
Right, and I remember that, but at the time, you know, not maybe that month, but was it like looked at weekly or whatever? Or bi-weekly when we got paid? You know what I'm saying? Maybe
I
it was a
don't
waste of
understand, sorry.
time. I mean, that's why they decided that we don't need to do it anymore.
Are you asking were the forms reviewed on a
Right.
regular basis?
Right,
for
on a regular
discrepancies?
basis, not just, you know, look through and say, oh, I already knew that, or whatever the case. I'm just saying that I don't know if they were reviewed enough by the council to make it a worthwhile project.
I don't think
It's not.
it's about our ability, because that's, I think, where the problem with this trust thing, it's not about us reviewing you. It's really about us just being able to say, when push comes to shove, that we could review you or XYZ official in the future. If somebody came to complain to us about something, like, hey,
What does so-and-so do?
yeah,
Why do they get?
or
more
like, even if
vacation
I'm just
leave?
like, even if I'm just sitting here and I'm like, how are they using their actual vacation time? I don't fully understand. I can then look at the reports and like just see, oh, this person requested vacation time like this. I would like to say that just the timesheets are enough, but like, in theory, if someone died and just didn't come to work, and somebody we hadn't covered, we had obviously covered the time, so then I could sit here and be like, oh, Lonnie's hours got covered by this human, but that's not the same thing. I want to know, and granted, dying is an extreme, I eventually find out that a member of our staff has passed away. But like, if random event happens that they're like, I can't take sick leave because I'm not sick, but like, I need to be gone. It's just, and I think that's why we're amenable to setting a different time and a different procedure. We just can't, we're not amenable to not documenting it. So like if maybe you're, like maybe if it is at the end of every month, that's when it needs to be documented. And so everyone needs to come to your office and then just, or maybe just the department heads or whoever has to come to your office and say, this month I had this person take this, like this, not sick leave, this vacation like time, this vacation time, this vacation time. This other person did this.
I
If
still
that's
think it's the
how
employee, the employee taking the time needs to be the one filling it out.
Yes, I mean, we can adjust and amend the procedure we want to take it through, but I'm not amenable to just not documenting it. That's kind of my point.
And my feeling is it should be prior to the time, because
If
I mean,
possible.
I'm amenable to also to like, if they figured it out and then they forgot, and so like, it's whatever, like, the prior to is not, quite as extreme as at least we have a document in the end that says they did switch their shifts for vacation time on this day and this day for these hours. Like, having that kind of documentation, I
That's
think,
literally all it is.
yeah, is important. And so if you would like to kind of figure out a procedure that works best for you in terms of how we can get employees to do that and to report that in a, not necessarily, I don't want to say convenient, but like,
Well, I think what you're gonna have to do is when you sit down to do our evaluations, I mean, Wanda and I will do it, because we're in the office and we're told to do it, so we'll do it. I'm not so sure that you will get that same response from other employees, so we will do our best to make sure it gets done, but when you have your evaluations with all the employees, then that would have to be something that you talk about with them.
and
And
I
that's
think
exactly what
we are
happened.
100% willing to do that. If that makes you guys feel better about how this process will go, we are 100% willing, and I'm assuming going.
That is how I
to do
already
it. Yeah,
assumed it would go.
I envision pretty much any time that people don't follow our policy manual, that that's gonna be brought up in our review, because otherwise, why the heck would we be having a policy manual where any can do anything? So if that's something that makes it easier for you guys and something you would then be able to support 100%, or if you guys feel like you need to, no, I don't wanna say you, because I don't wanna just put it on you guys, but like if you guys want to hash out a different procedure that still documents it, but provides more leniency to how it happens, then I'm at least willing to have that conversation with you, and then we can get that hashed out by the next meeting, and
No,
we can
that's
figure
fine,
that out.
we'll use the vacation slips and we'll put them in each department and hopefully
And we can put it in every vehicle, we
in
can
the habit.
put it in places that makes it convenient for every employee to then just quickly grab and fill out,
I think that it should be revised though to
to
not make it
reflect.
so stringent on you that you have to be with them holding their hand. A lot of the stuff that was rewritten on here, if it took you out of the equation, it was meant to
Lighten
do
the
just
load.
that, to lighten your load.
Right.
If we don't wanna make it harder for you guys.
If
to
that's what it
understand.
needs to be, I'm 100% on board with lightening your load.
Well, and I even think if you guys, if it would be adequate that they just sent an email.
I think I would be,
That,
I do not think we should be so stringent on the form to be the sense that it's form or no go.
The reason why I picked form is because it already exists.
Yes,
I thought that
think
would be easy because we
can
already
say
have it.
form, and we can create like informal policy to say, hey, the form also includes if you sent the FO.
Gracious, when an email comes in, take the forms,
Yeah.
get the email, staple it to it,
I'll
put
put
the
it in the
date.
book.
Yeah, and just.
Or they can fill the form out online and send it.
Yeah, I mean, we can do that too. There's so many ways that we can do, that we can try to make it more convenient to city staff.
Correct.
It's not about us trying
The
to
only,
make it
the only
hard.
city employee that we have that isn't hooked up to a computer system is Parker at the cemetery and the landfill, right?
correct,
And he will be getting some
some
form.
sort of something, yes.
soon, yeah.
But and Hank, does he have?
But he
a-
has email.
Does he have a,
He's going to be getting a tablet, I believe.
why can't I say the word? Does he have like a city
iPad?
vehicle?
A city vehicle, no,
He doesn't have anything that he like drives out to the
no.
dump or anything? Because I would say,
Personal cars.
if we put the forms in like a vehicle that he takes to the dump,
Yeah, we don't have that.
well, we can hand him a physical
We hired
packet
him
of
pretty,
forms. Yeah, and I,
wasn't
yeah, I'm sorry, I get it.
Where does he put his lunchbox?
Yeah.
Does he just leave it in his vehicle, or does he take it out to the city
He
shop?
goes home to eat.
Okay.
Well, we can give him a packet, we can give him specifically a packet at least, so that way it's like, if you ever need it, we're not trying to just say like, you don't have access to a computer, you can't do it, but like,
He will.
yeah, we can make this as easy as we possibly can, but if we can't get people to at least work with us on it, then it's gonna be rough, that's all I can say.
I'd like to do one thing, go back to 215 on the accident reporting. I think that should be a form, an accident report form,
I think we have one, don't
okay?
We get one from our insurance company
And
every year.
if we do that, then it's made at the city offices and ultimately ends up in the mayor's hands. Because the mayor, the chief stands alone.
It would be, however,
They actually consider that confidential.
she's the one that would actually be able to constantly take care of the 24-hour requirement. Or I should say, the finance office is the only individual or office that would be able to take care of that every single 24-hour period. Because there are two people that are covering it. And, I mean, if I am gonna get COVID, guess what? If somebody has an accident, there's no mayor for a little while.
No, but I was just saying that
So-
on all things being equal, it should go to.
Eventually.
You know, well, as close to 24 hours as it gets.
I agree that there should be some oversight there too, I'm sure, but
I do have a real quick question now that we're back on that topic. Does every city employee that might end up having any type of accident that would apply to 2.15 have your phone number?
Yes.
Every single city employee who might be involved in that 2.15?
We have a chain of command that we give to our pool employees. All the existing employees already have my phone number, and I am on that list.
Because I just want to make sure, because then it would make more sense that we're like, okay, everyone has the ability to contact you.
Mhm.
I was thinking more, they contact the department head, and eventually the department would have to contact you with a centralized information. But if that makes it easier in terms of the insurance filing for, what was it, workman's comp, then obviously that's a change that we can make. I just wanted to make sure that if we did make that change, that it wasn't going to affect.
at Custom Coils, you're required to report an accident whether there's a workman comp claim or not.
No,
If I cut my finger,
yeah,
then I'd
I
have
think
to put a
that's-
Band-Aid
It's the
on.
same here.
Here, yeah, it's just for reasons of workman comp that are to you. That's, I think, the issue. And I was just making sure that for that reason, everyone has an access. Because if they didn't, then they'd have to reach out to somebody anyway. And it's best then if we described who they reach out to, which would be their department head, who would reach out to you. But if they've got it, then that's not an issue at all.
7.9, personal emergency leave. And I know, Melissa, you wrote the comment in there that you hate defining a family, but I really do feel it does need to be defined or it will be abused.
Well, that's when we have our handy dandy documentation of what they're using it for.
Yeah, I,
Define a family.
such as like, who would be considered a family?
So it's spouse or significant other spouse, parents, step-parents, children, stepchildren, brother, sister, step-brother, sister, grandparents, grandchildren, or great-grandchildren.
Or anybody you are a legal caregiver for.
I think that needs to stay in. Otherwise, I feel it will be abused.
Well, I trust our employees, so I don't think they're going to.
Our manual has all that in it.
So does ours. I mean,
What's your concern with family?
Honestly, those comments are like 2 years old, and I've tried taking them out repeatedly, and it seems like every document that I send to people still ends up with the damn comments in it, so I don't know what the actual verbiage is in the actual rule. I know she's reading the comments. The comments might not actually be the rule that we decided on at one point, so
Well,
I don't know.
That was what was in.
I just,
Yeah, I wish I could answer it for you, but we
Yeah,
had that
just-
conversation 2 years ago. And
Just
since
generally, was it over-defined, under-defined, were we worried that we were leaving
I believe
protected
it
classes out?
yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
that's what, because that's a legit concern if there's
You
some
meant
kind of.
going too far out, because my experience has
Yeah.
been it's immediate family, no grandchildren, no great-grandchildren, that, it's spouse and children.
Does the rule itself still say all those words? Or is it just the comment you're reading?
It did say all those words,
Okay,
and
then
then
that
we
is what-
deleted them.
That is what was decided on in that comment that you're reading, is from 2 years ago. And since then, either the initial committee that we had or stuff that we've talked about since then, I've decided to go with that.
leave it.
So if you're still reading that comment from 2 years ago.
But no, you took it out.
No,
It's
so-
deleted.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah.
Is it
It's
in there or
deleted.
not?
It's
It is
deleted.
Okay,
In-
that's what I
in
was
the
asking.
most
Is it
current
deleted
version,
or not?
And that's
not
why I
defined.
said, I feel it needs to be in there, because if it's not, it's going to be abused. It'll be.
So we do
three
trust our
generations.
employees or we don't? Which one is it?
But-
Well, instead of personal leave, take a day of vacation.
But this is when they can use sick leave.
Okay,
This is what we are approving.
And our
for
original issue
employees.
was with it being too expansive.
Right.
It's actually FMLA, correct? Family Medical Leave Act. So that is actually all defined.
So then would we just change it to
Why
however,
why don't
however
we
it's
change it to
defined?
how it's worded in the FMLA
No, it's not, so
documentation?
we have personal emergency leave, which includes death in the family. FMLA leave is the very next sub one. So we're talking about 7.9, personal emergency leave. If necessary, qualified city employees may use accrued sick leave for personal emergency leave unless disease may include death in the family. And then 7.10 is the FMLA. So they are separate sections. And if our concern is that it was overbroad and that we should include some definition, sounds like an easy fix. We just look at it for this upcoming meeting and we put in the ones that we think
Define.
absolutely must be
Define.
there, and we cut out the ones that we're apparently not willing to extend it to. That sounds simple enough to me in how we would just have it fixed for,
Yeah, absolutely.
or we can keep it the same, and that's also a simple fix too. Like, we just have to, I think, come to an agreement kind of now what we want to do. We want to actually cut some out. So that way if someone's working
Well,
on
if it's
cutting.
documented on the paper, we're gonna have to say whether they're taking the leave, so.
Yeah, but I'm saying,
What qualifies as taking sick?
and what qualifies as for the family. So if they say, my great-great-great-great-granddaughter passed away, and we include that, then fine, but if we don't include that, then obviously we need to perhaps hash that out. Because I do understand, I think, at least for me, and I'm kind of softy, if my grandchild died, I don't have grandkids, and it didn't qualify, I'd be upset. And if it wasn't defined, I would try to force it, kind of be like, family has passed away, fine.
Is sick leave part of funeral?
Bereavement?
Isn't that separate?
I
Not
don't
for ours,
know
no.
that we addressed bereavement.
In the old one, I'm pretty sure bereavement was under sick leave, if I remember correctly.
But I don't
That could
know
be
that
wrong.
this one, actually, because with bereavement, there's 3 days granted, depending on.
In the new one?
I don't think bereavement is addressed.
Is it in the old one?
I think so. I think bereavement's in the old, isn't it, Linda?
I thought it was under sick leave.
3
I
days
can't
for
remember
certain
having it
people,
right
they're
now.
listed.
I don't have it in the new sick 3 days.
I think 3, yes. But it also has publications.
Yes, it's limited.
Do you have the old one on?
So BEREA.
The 20,
Yeah.
the 2000, I mean.
Yeah, just terrible.
But I do think it's in there because, that we have had that arise
Sure.
for the employees. The next section is 7.11, work on a holiday. So it's 7.11.1 and 7.11.2. So, if an employee is required to work on a holiday, they will receive time and a half for those hours worked, and I would like to have the verbiage in there up to 8 hours,
Aye.
because that's what our shifts are. Our shifts are 8 hours.
But if they work over, like, so let's say like,
Put 16 hours total, I think is what she's saying.
no, I think it'd be,
No,
12 hours
all of our
Yeah.
shifts
It'd be
are just
8
8
plus the
hours.
fours. But I'm asking why, because if like, let's say someone's shift does extend beyond
If it's
that
Christmas
30
Day.
minutes, yeah, that 30 minutes or something, and ends up being an 8.5-hour shift, is there,
If an employee is required to work on an 8-hour day, I would just, I mean, that's what all of our shifts are 8 hours. Even the police is 8 hours. They're 4 on call, but an 8-hour shift.
But if there was an emergency and they had to work and it took 10 hours, then that other 2, what are you going to do with it?
They're not gonna get paid time and a half.
So I don't think we can do that.
yeah, I think all the time that they work while working a holiday should be covered.
I do, I agree.
I don't know why we would discriminate
Yeah.
on the other 2 hours.
Yes.
Or the 30
Because
minutes, or the
if
whatever.
we don't have that verbiage in there, you're leaving yourself open for abuse. which-
One former employee used to do it,
Yes.
and it left a bad taste in everyone's mouth.
So
But I agree with you, I don't think we can.
I
think there is,
think I think it's obviously if somebody abused it in the past, they abused it in the past, I can't.
So when we have somebody that would come in and work holidays and then put in 12 hours?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, so I think we're
and
safe.
since then that's been an issue.
And none of our shifts are 12-hour shifts.
I
All
think-
of our shifts are 8-hour shifts.
And I get that, and I understand your kind of reasoning for why the cutoff could be 8. I get that. My thought is the fact that we have specific verbiage in there saying that it's required by the city. If they're working hours that aren't required by us, like they just randomly decided to bring their silliness in and start working on a holiday, we could then say, we're not required to work you. We don't pay people for coming in.
Which is already a rule, which
Yeah.
is already subject to disciplinary action.
Yeah, so I think it's fine because we've covered it elsewhere with our disciplinary actions. I don't think,
If they're working unapproved hours.
yeah,
I think without having those up to 8-hour words in there, you are setting yourself up for an uncomfortable situation. Because how are you going to prove then that that person did not need to be there 12 hours, that they're working
Talk to the
unapproved
department.
hours?
Well, they're supposed to get those unapproved,
Yeah.
those hours approved ahead of time if they're working overtime.
That's assuming if they're working overtime. We do
well,
overtime.
if they're working on a
at-
holiday and it's required by the city, I assume.
Yeah, if they're working a
Someone's gonna
holiday and it's
inform you.
not required, if it's a holiday and everybody else is off, there's gotta be a reason why they're on.
And that would be simple enough, so like if I am the department head of cemetery,
So
why pick that?
part of what we're trying to wrap our heads around is the abuse that we had that occurred before. 7.11.1 says the very first 4 words, 5 words, 6 words, an employee required to work on a paid holiday. So that helps me a little bit because it says required to work.
And then we just have to prove that
If it's-
department head X did not say.
If it's a cop, I got a schedule. If it's an emergency, I gotta have Bonnie come in and fix something, somebody's made a phone call, it's required to work. Sam, the city attorney, was an hourly guy, and he just decided he wanted to get away from his kids on Christmas morning, do a bunch of stuff. I don't know that I was required to work, it's not like me being, so I'm just chiming in to help you, I think there's a way to get what you both want, but I think it's partially in there because it says required to work.
Yeah, required.
Yeah.
That specifies, that,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, we're not-
Specifically dealing with that.
And I think to the point that Pat is making, it is a very fair point about the previous potential abuses. We've got a committee in a couple different ways we could have oversight for hourly employees that kind of have to make their own hours. I think, I mean, that,
And we trust our employees. That employee's not.
And if an employee chooses to do that, you would assume, I assume.
But
that
I
they
see
would
what
eventually not.
you're saying, Pat. I
Yeah.
mean, to limit it, but who's requiring them to do the work? And I guess that there's
Let's just add 2 words. An employee required to work their shift. End of story.
But what if it's not their shift? What if they?
Why would they be required to work your shift?
What if
Well,
Christmas,
that's-
what if Christmas Day,
Well, that's my point.
the water plant
And Dale can't come.
blows
Yeah.
apart and we
Yeah.
need all hands on deck for 16 hours?
That's a lot of shit.
And I'm paranoid, I'm not trying to argue, Mr. Mayor, but what I don't want to be is the guy that has to go figure out, our policy says we're only going to pay you for 8 hours of overtime, so,
Across the hall.
And under FLSA, I don't even know if we can do that. I would have to review it to see if we can even do that, but I don't think we can do that.
do what?
Say
Well,
that
Limit.
if we're gonna make you work on, like, we recognize it's a holiday, we're gonna make you work, but we're not gonna pay you time and a half for all of it.
I believe that the city has the ability to do that. I can't quote the thing, but the city can agree to pay the police force because normally they don't get time and a half per FLSA. The city can, as I understand it, the city can voluntarily pay time and a half
Mhm.
for overtime. So we have, the city has that ability to do that. And I think that there is a form, if they have to work, say that Dale has to come in and work Christmas Day, we fill out a form that approves so many hours of him having to work, or if it's exigent and we don't know a time frame, that this many hours or as needed.
711-2, so it's a paid holiday on a regular day off. So if a paid holiday recognized by the city falls on the employee's regularly scheduled day off, I would just like it to say that the employee will receive 8 hours of holiday pay, period. Currently, it says if an additional day off with the same week is not possible, then the employee will be compensated with an additional 8 hours at the regular rate of pay. To keep payroll simple, when holidays happen, we have finally gotten pretty clear cut how we handle it, and that is what we do. If an employee if there is if it's a paid holiday and it's a normal employee's regularly scheduled day off, they just get 8 hours of holiday pay. They know they only work 32 that week.
So you take a day off, is what you're saying? You're gonna take a day?
From our perspective, we pay them 8 hours of holiday. From the employee's perspective, they work 32. Correct.
And get paid for 40.
And get paid.
I would make the language a little clearer than what I just heard, that they get paid for the holiday, so they can take a day off in the week, like the Friday before or the Monday after, that they take that day, they'll get paid for it, but they just don't have to be at work. I'm a little troubled by the language.
I
That's
think
confusing.
you want to eliminate that day, they can substitute that, right?
Correct. Correct.
Shifting
We
I
just
think
want
that's
to
a
give
good
them the 8 hours of holiday.
I think that's a simple, I don't think we really need to fix the language because we do say that. We just created an intermediary step. And so you're just wanting to delete the intermediary.
Right.
So it just immediately is saying,
They get.
giving them 8 hours of regular pay.
Holiday pay.
Holiday pay,
Yep.
so it'd actually be like 12 hours.
8 hours.
No,
Paid
they-
They're not
holidays.
working on- See, because
That's
they're,
what-
they're,
Paid holidays.
see,
So I'm
that's
just
why
saying,
it was,
they're just getting 8 hours of
Yeah.
regular
yeah, just
pay.
8 hours regular time
Yeah, okay, that was my.
for that holiday. See, that's what can be confusing.
That is what I had.
I think, well, it says the regular rate, so, a regular, one regular day.
I hesitate to ask, but is there more input from any other? Would you like to put in your, because if we're gonna come back here in August and do this, it'd be nice if we did it right the first time.
That's my notes too. That's just why I'm glad that we're going through each and every one.
Incidentally, if we do come back here in August and everybody is still, if there's any point of contention, I do not want to hear any motion. I want to hear, we're going to table this and we're going to hammer it out again, and then we'll do it
And
again.
at some point, I do think,
From any of us here, if all of a sudden there's
From the
some,
people at this table.
yeah, if there's some issue
Because
where.
at some point, we've got to get past everybody's angry about it and everybody wants their way.
I
May
realize.
I get a copy of,
Yes.
please?
I do think that we eventually just need to settle on the language, and if that means we have to just kind of amend it in that moment. Like, we're sitting here and we're just hashing it out right now. Like, basically what I literally took all your comments, I wrote them down. And if that's something that the council wants to do, then we should just put them in.
I don't
And
have a
then just
problem with
At the end of that meeting, we say, this is what we've come up with. This is what we think is the fairness for both us and for city officials. That's what we're doing. I think we have to do that sooner rather than later, just because this has been a 2-year
Understood.
project. Like,
Yeah.
I'm I'm truly hoping that this doesn't go beyond August, like, we need to have this in place. I find it bizarre that we're currently, and I think this is a prime example, the fact that we're operating under two different, that we're like trying to figure out what's going on, like, the fact that so many documents have been sent out. Sorry, my hair's sitting there.
Documents now.
Thank you. The fact that there's been so many documents out, we have to be able to just kind of discard all but one and say, this is it. And I agree though, that we have to do it right, but that might mean that at one of our meetings, this is gonna be a dedicated item that we just
Like, I don't have a problem
fix up
with
and send it.
others being involved in the matter, but at some point, people at this table have got to come together and make a decision.
I agree.
I'm all open to input, I think it's great, because you did point out some things that do need to be changed, and I appreciate that. But at some point, we've got to say, no matter how angry it makes you, we're not asking for a lot by filling out a form.
Yeah. Eventually,
It's just the way it's gonna be.
it's the maximum government, we can't make everyone happy, including our own, I don't want to say bureaucracy.
So when is this document gonna be sent out so we can preview it before
I believe
next?
I already sent it.
Well, it's been sent out to all the city employees.
And is that the current
Yeah.
one? Does it have all,
That
the-
is the
is it
most.
the Word document or the one with all the
I
comments?
think what you're gonna wanna do is send it, take the comments off then.
I have thought that I've done that several times, and
I'll look at it
apparently
and
I
see if I
have
can-
not, so that will be
There-
my project.
There are
I'll look at it
other
and see if I can also get them.
lines that were printed over the top that we could
Yeah.
read.
Yeah, we will.
And I didn't bring
The
those up.
But I
formatting
think
stuff will be
that copy
figured
has
out.
been sent out to all city employees, that's the copy we should.
Yeah, but I just didn't know if the copy that I have on my computer is the copy that,
Yes, that is the
It's
most
the
recent one,
latest.
yes. Everybody has the most recent one, to my knowledge,
And I think that's the one. we
except for
should
you,
be-
because we weren't on the council.
That's the document we should be operating under. And if there's language that we want to revert back to, that's fine, but everything happens to this current document. It either gets changed to what it was, or it gets changed to something new, but it's all gonna happen to this static document. I don't wanna say static, because that's the opposite of change. But this document, and that's it.
Are
And
these
so that way we all
changes
know.
going to be implemented in this document before August 1st?
Yes,
Okay,
we are doing it.
that,
We're picking a day and we're doing it.
and when those changes are put in, that information will be disseminated to every single person at this table again.
This table here.
Yes.
Thank you.
And then I don't think that we need to send out any new updated copies to the city.
I will
We
send a
will-
new updated copy to the city employees for the simple fact that some of it
Well,
is
that might-
not
yes,
readable.
that-
And if they weren't able to
that-
read it, and the fact that nobody else pointed it out makes me think that you may have been the only city employee to read it, which is also alarming, not my fault, but if they've
That
chosen
is
to.
incorrect. We kind of read
Sorry.
it together.
Yes, that the two of you probably read it, and since nobody else emailed me back and said, hey, Melissa, I can't read parts of this, probably means that the other 5 didn't read it.
But other than for that reason, I think all other updates that happen to it that get brought to us are just gonna be part of a living document until it's done, and then once we finalize that, that'll get sent out. Obviously, all city employees are welcome to come in and talk to us, and the minutes are discussed, so all of our potential changes that we've just now discussed will be in there. So,
I
I
have a
don't
massive
think,
headache, I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep doing this to you,
it's okay, I enjoy looking at you angry.
but not trying to be angry at you.
Okay, so by the beginning of August, we'll have another copy that does have these changes in it. We now are moving on to number 9. Because we're not going to have a motion. I'm calling for executive session for contractual matters myself, and I believe that somebody alluded to the fact that there would be some legal matters discussed as well.
I will make a motion to enter into executive session for contractual matters and legal advice. I'll second that.
Motion has been made and seconded to enter into executive session pursuant to SDCL 1-25-2-3, contractual matters and legal matters. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. It is 8:13.
Will you turn it real quick? Is it?
Oh, yeah, I will.
Thank you. Thank you. I I didn't even know if you restarted it or if we were just gonna not record it, but I figured better safe to ask.